Kelsey, safety comes down. So instead of Kelsey running up the seam.
I'm sure you enjoyed the Super Bowl.
Viva Las Vegas!
But did you know that there were times referees ruined the NFL this season?
Viva Las Vegas!
Okay, cool it, Kelsey. We gotta start with the time the Los Angeles Rams got screwed in their game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers in October. You see, during their game on 4th and inches, Steelers quarterback Kenny Pickett snuck forward and appeared to be short of the first down, so the referees marked him past the marker and the Rams couldn't challenge because they did not have any timeouts remaining. This bad spotting ruined all chances for the Rams to get to draw the game. And so it was, with every second that melted away, every chance of the Rams gaining a streak of success was handicapped.
The chips fell the wrong way for the Rams. I think they got hosed there, but there's no guarantee that they even win that game.
The game ended with the Steelers at 24 and the Rams at 17, but you can't compare this bad call with the one that happened in Indianapolis because the refs couldn't even deny they ruined the NFL. The fumble in the Colts versus Browns game was due to a pair of controversial penalties whistled on Indianapolis cornerback Darrell Baker Jr.
25-yard line, fake handoff to Moss. Minshew on the run, fires complete. Deshaun Watson, you felt the psyche change. Look at Moss.
Baker was called for an illegal contact penalty against Browns wide receiver Amari Cooper that negated E.J. Speed's strip sack of P.J. Walker that would have ended the game. That ruling gave the Browns a 1st and goal. Baker was whistled the very next play for pass interference on a ball that Walker threw over the head of wide receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones. The back-to-back calls on Darrell Baker Jr. erased a game-ending strip sack by E.J. Speed and placed Cleveland on the end zone's doorstep. 3 plays later, Kareem Hunt powered the ball in on 4th and goal to give the Browns a 39-38 victory to drop the Colts to 3-4. I agree, officiating isn't as easy as we watch on TV, but it's made a lot worse by the NFL's treatment of the job, as though it's a kind of side hustle rather than an essential part of the game. Okay, for instance, take this scenario home and make an omelet, or whatever you can from it. If you have an Apple phone that keeps getting faulty every time, and the manufacturers are doing very little to fix it, won't you start looking for other options, say a Samsung? What if it's your car that's always breaking down, just like an NFL referee does during wrong calls? Won't you opt for another brand? And so we keep having bad officiating taking center stage. Talking about center stages, the Chiefs of Kansas City had their 6th win in a row, and in the process, they took down the Chargers to 2-4. One of the top ref errors, which to many gave the clubs a little bit of solace, was also with the Chiefs. Kadarius Toney receive was flagged offside when he sketched a penalty that ended up invalidating a presumed remarkable go-ahead landing with 1:12 to play during a game on December 10th. Well, this was indeed an offside, and you'd think it suggests an improvement, but no, because the one coming up right next disproves this totally. The Cowboys were flagged wrongly during a January event for a tripping call with 2:05 on their hands. This pushed the team backwards 22 yards on a pitch that they eventually gained 19. The highlight shows the possible player responsible for the tripping was none other than the defensive end for the Lions, Aiden Hutchinson, and not a Cowboy as was expected. This difference likely determined if the Lions would be getting the ball back prior to the end of the game. We all know rules hold sway in this game. Well, I'm afraid the refs don't consider this anymore because why else would they make an inappropriate flag off for Owen in the Week 13 game, Kansas City Chiefs versus Green Bay Packers? You know the drill. Don't touch the QB unless he's running like a madman and still in bounds. That's when you can legally smack Patrick Mahomes, or so you'd think. But no, even when Mahomes was clearly on the field and fighting for yards during a December game, Jonathan Owens got flagged for hitting him too hard. And not by the refs who were right there, but by some guy who ran in from miles away and claimed it was out of bounds. Allen, the head ref, didn't seem sure, but he went along with it. He announced to the world that Owens was a bad man who hit Mahomes after the whistle. That was a lie, and NBC's Terry McAuley was furious. Guess how the game went? Badly. The ball was moved from Kansas City 40 to Green Bay 45 because of the penalty. As Kansas City had a very slight chance in the middle of a touchdown, heading towards the end zone was impractical. That happens when the ref awards too much yardage on a missed call for a personal foul. However, this was far from the worst mistake an officiating team made on that drive. 2 games after this incident, another one happened.
It's gotta be a foul. It's gotta be a foul.
Valentine clearly interfered with Valdes-Scantling before the ball got to him, but the referees did not penalize him for this blatant violation. Macaulay said, "That's a penalty. He's making contact before the ball. That's defensive pass interference." But, strangely, it was not called that way. The more probable explanation here is that the referees made a mistake, a big one. This was a worse error by the team, as it would have allowed the Chiefs to have a first down at the 7-yard line, with 3 or 4 opportunities to try and get a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to even the score. But sadly, there was more. We all understand that the clock only stops when a ball carrier goes out of bounds if that ball carrier is moving forward toward the other team's end zone by his own power. If a defender stops a ball carrier and pushes the runner backward or sideways out of bounds, then the clock keeps running. That's common knowledge, right? But down judge Sarah Thomas saw it differently, as she decided that Valdes-Scantling was moving forward out of bounds when that was obviously not true. Well, judge for yourself.
Mahomes will go sideline. Valdes-Scantling hangs on, trying to get out of bounds. He's going to be ruled.
That call was devilish. Had that moment been handled properly by Thomas, the game would have been left with about 18 or so seconds on the clock. There was no way the Chiefs, with their limited timeouts, would have made it to the line in 10 seconds to spike the ball. As the time ended, it gave them 19 seconds. That devil call had them making 4 runs, but wait till you see how many runs happened in this next one. Anyone who's seen a football game knows that Hail Mary plays do not get pass interference calls. That's just how it is. You can argue that the reasoning is flawed. You can claim that it's unfair to have a separate rule for that play. You can write to your representative to demand a change. However, the NBC commentators wasted a lot of time analyzing a possible pass interference foul on Travis Kelce in the end zone on Mahomes' last throw.
And Mahomes put it up for grabs. And there's the angle that shows maybe the most significant contact.
Kelce got a slight nudge. If this was a regular play during the game, happening in the open field, it would have definitely been a penalty. However, the throw was a Hail Mary, so no flag was tossed. We don't know how angry viewers were by this no call, but the broadcast sure wasted a lot of time arguing and analyzing it. Most people got why that wasn't flagged, because calling pass interference on a Hail Mary would basically make the Hail Mary the simplest and most successful play in the sport. However, after a final drive full of officiating errors and blunders, it did seem fitting for the game to end in a discussion about the officials. Now, we can all wait to hear from the officiating team and from the head of officiating, Walt Anderson, on why the calls were so poorly made and what levels of responsibility the league will hold the officials to going forward. Let's all start holding our breath, beginning right away. You see, one reason why American football is having to deal with these mishaps is because fans are finding a soft spot for it. And that's why, however bad the game gets or the calls get blown out of tune, we, the loyal fans, keep watching it. In 2022, out of the 100 most prominent American television games, the NFL was responsible for 82, and that figure was initially 75 in 2021, to show you that the number keeps adding weight each year, like your cable subscription, and that's all the NFL officials care about. The NFL could easily opt to fix this bug, but guess what? They won't, because they have us, the diehard fans, and like it or not, we're part of the Matrix. Unfortunately, it's gradually becoming impossible for inefficient NFL referees to not make a teddy bear of themselves at every after-game highlight. Myriads of blown calls have recently been the reason many games end in shambles, drawing the fury of both retired and active players. At just week 7 of the season alone, 2 bad calls became the focal points of all sports shows and on social media. Crazy, huh? The refs even ruined a classic at the Super Bowl. You see, the Kansas City Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles played out a classic Super Bowl, but it was ended by a very close referee call. Patrick Mahomes picked up an injury at the end of the first half after rolling his ankle, with his side 10 points behind going into the break. However, the Chiefs scored every time they had the ball in the second half, to eventually take it by 38-35 thanks to a late field goal. Fans were not happy, though, with an extremely harsh holding call late in the game, denying the Eagles one final chance to get back into the game. These flops are becoming the order of the season, happening every hour, day, week, and month. Well, maybe not in that particular order, but why should it be happening at all? It's becoming so exasperating that the NFL's new mantra has become complain, whine, moan. Again, maybe not in that particular order, but you get the drill. Don't forget to subscribe.